Bienvenidos a la clase de Español 1. Hoy es el capítulo 11, lección 30A. Today is chapter 11, lesson 30A, and we are going to start off with our homework check. Then we're going to look at the first portion of lesson 30. We're going to review our summer vacation vocabulary. We're going to look at Romans 5:8, our verse for this lesson. We'll do a little more review about Peru. We'll review our pronunciation of the consonant sounds he, and jota. We'll review our cognates, that's changing those words that end in fy to Spanish words that end in ficar, F-I-C-A-R. For grammar today, we're going to introduce the preposition para and talk about the uses of this preposition para. We'll contrast it a little bit with the preposition por as well. And then we're going to look at some more of our irregular preterite conjugations. There are a few that have an irregular conjugation. We'll talk about those and do some exercises with those today. So let's get started right away with our homework check. Remember, if you have not yet written down your summer vacation sentences in your notes or on a scratch sheet of paper, make sure you do that before you proceed with this video. You should have those copied down both in Spanish and translated into English, either in a blank spot in your workbook or on some scratch paper. So don't continue until you have that work done. All right, let's take a look at those sentences and make sure that you have those. You should have shown those to me by now, so I hope you have those written out. The translations, I've given them to you in other videos here in this series, so you should have the translations just fine. But make sure that you have those written out. Make sure you know what those mean, because those will show up on the quiz. So make sure that you are reviewing those translations. We've been talking about Peru here in this chapter, in Capítulo 11. Make sure that you are aware of the three different regions in Peru: La Costa, Las Montañas, and La Selva, the tropical rainforest there in Peru. And those specific regions are a significant part of Peru's culture. And there are three very different cultures as well as three very different regions. If you've watched that YouTube video that I linked to, then you understand some of those things about Peru. Remember that the capital of Peru, is Lima, and also make sure that you're aware of Machu Picchu, which is a very important part of Peruvian or Peruano culture. Our verse that we need to review, we have three verses now in chapter 11. The first verse is 1 Corintios 15:3b. Why don't you say that with me, clase? 1 Corintios 15:3b. Cristo murió por nuestros pecados conforme a las Escrituras. 1 Corintios 15:3b. El segundo versículo es Mateo 4:19. Y les dijo, venid en pos de mí, y os haré pescadores de hombres. Mateo 4:19. Y el tercer versículo que estamos aprendiendo es Romanos 5:8. Dígalo, clase. Romanos 5:8. Mas Dios muestra su amor para con nosotros, en que siendo aún pecadores, Cristo murió por nosotros. Romanos 5:8. Let's check some of these missing words as we review our verse, Romanos 5:8. ¿Qué palabra nos falta aquí, clase? La respuesta es muestra, shows, muestra. ¿Y aquí qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es aún, even or still, aún. Y tres, ¿qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es murió, died, murió. ¿Y aquí qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es nosotros, we or us, nosotros. Número 5, ¿qué palabra nos falta? Siendo, being, siendo. Make sure you're studying that verse. You will need to be able to write that verse for this lesson quiz. We've been reviewing the pronunciation of the consonant sounds he, and jota for this lesson. Remember that G, when it's followed by an E or an I, is going to get that soft H sound, just like the J in Spanish. He, and jota. Make sure that you're reviewing that. Make sure you know how to pronounce those sounds. Remember that if G is followed by an A, an O, or a U, then it will have the hard G sound. Ga, go, gu. But if it's followed by an E or an I, then it's going to say he or he, just like the jota sound. Practice these words, clase. Gente, giro, jugo, paja. Keep in mind those consonant sounds as we go through and as we continue to learn and make our pronunciation skills the best that we can. We've been talking about cognates, English words that end in fy, that's verbs like edify, glorify, identify. That fy will change to ficar, ficar, in Spanish. And it makes it a very easy translation for you to learn hundreds of new words that might end in fy in English. So words like justify would be justificar. Words like notify would be notificar. Rectify, rectificar. So what would magnify be in Spanish? What would signify be in Spanish? Magnify would be magnificar, and signify would be significar. We've been talking about the cultural note there in your textbooks. Make sure that you are going through and reviewing this. We've translated this into English for you already in a previous lesson, but make sure that you can answer these questions. Let's look at número 4. Describa la muralla del pueblo de Machu Picchu. Describe the mural of the village of Machu Picchu. What did it look like? What was it made of? You have those answers right here in this paragraph. So you should be able to answer those in English after looking at that paragraph. But Peru has a very rich cultural heritage, and this cultural note tells us a little bit about that. Let's take a moment and look at the vacaciones, the dialogue that's on página 247 y 248. Escuchen, clase.
Lección 30, parte 2. Diálogo. Follow along on pages
247 and 248 of your textbook. Las vacaciones.
¿Qué vas a hacer durante las vacaciones, Mario?
Todavía no sé.
¿Qué hiciste el verano pasado?
Mi familia hizo un viaje a Perú. Mi papá tuvo que asistir a un congreso en Lima para representar a su compañía. Fuimos por la línea aérea Avianca.
¿Estuvieron en Perú por muchos días?
Estuvimos allí por solo 10 días, pero vimos muchas cosas interesantes.
Dime, ¿qué cosas vieron?
Mi mamá y yo anduvimos por la Plaza de San Martín un día cuando mi papá estuvo en el Congreso. Es una plaza grande y bella. Entramos en algunos de los edificios. Visitamos el Museo de Arte Colonial y el de Historia. Otro día fuimos a la Universidad de San Marcos.
¿Es una universidad antigua?
Sí, es la universidad más antigua de las Américas. Supe que se fundó en 1551.
¿Pudieron viajar a Cusco?
No, no pudimos. Quisimos ir el segundo día que estuvimos en Perú, pero no pudimos ir. Lo sentí mucho porque hay ruinas del Imperio Inca en Machu Picchu, cerca de Cusco. Me dijeron que es un sitio interesante, pero el viaje hasta Machu Picchu es peligroso. Está en las montañas.
¿Viste llamas en Perú? Tú sabes cómo me gustan los animales.
Un día vimos algunas en el Parque de Leyendas. La llama es muy común en Perú. Me compré un suéter de lana de llama por solo $10. Lo usé el invierno pasado.
¿Fueron a una iglesia el domingo?
Sí, fuimos a la iglesia bautista de San Carlos. Después del culto, el pastor nos invitó a su casa para almorzar con su familia. Pasamos un buen rato con ellos.
Perú es un país muy interesante, ¿verdad?
Sí, me divertí mucho durante las vacaciones. Mi papá quiere visitar otro país de Sudamérica este año.
Qué dichoso eres, Mario.
Gracias, Ana. Dios es bueno para conmigo.
And so several of those questions that are listed there for you on página 248, let's just take one of these today. Based on the conversation between Ana y Mario, let's look at número 1. ¿Es fácil llegar a Machu Picchu? Translate that question. You can answer this question in English, but based on the conversation that we just listened to, ¿es fácil llegar a Machu Picchu? I hope you were able to answer that question. The answer is no. No es fácil llegar a Machu Picchu. Es difícil llegar a Machu Picchu. It is difficult to get to Machu Picchu. It's quite a hike. Vocabulario. You should have written your vocabulario from these summer vacation sentences either in your notes, in your workbook, on a scratch sheet of paper. But let's take a look at these. The question that we see there in bold at the top of the page, ¿Qué hiciste el verano pasado? What did you do last summer? Here is one very exciting example of what this family did last summer. Viajé al río Amazonas con un misionero. I traveled to the Amazon River with a missionary. Estuvimos en la jungla. We were in the jungle. A very exciting summer vacation there. Here's another one. Fui de campamento con mi familia. I went camping with my family. Fuimos a las montañas. We went to the mountains. Here's one. This one's very familiar to those of us that live near the beach. Fui a la playa. I went to the beach. Hice castillos en la arena. I made castles in the sand. And then the last one, viajé a las islas del Océano Pacífico. I went to the Pacific Island Oceans, or the Pacific Ocean Islands. So those very simple sentences there, but they just give us some examples of our preterite conjugations, and then they add some interesting vocabulary words too, and you'll see those highlighted. So you've got some vocab words that we've been introduced to here, as well as some of our preterite conjugations that we've been talking about. So lots of good sentences there using some of the things that we've learned. Today in grammar, we're going to be talking about la preposición para. This is the preposition for. Now, this is not to be confused with the other preposition in Spanish, por, which is also for. In English, we only have one of these words, for. But in Spanish, we have por and para, and they have very specific uses. We're going to talk today about para, give some of the uses, then we're going to practice some with using this preposition. The use of the preposition por, you can see it right here in these sentences. Right here, leo la Biblia para aprender de Dios. I read the Bible in order to learn of God. Right here, tengo un regalo para ti. I have a gift for you. Para is often used to express looking ahead. There is movement forward. This is an objective or a goal. It's something that we are headed toward. It could be an action. Jesús vino para salvar a los perdidos. Jesus came in order to save. He came looking ahead in order to save the lost. It could be a person. El evangelio es para todo el mundo. The gospel is for, it is headed to, it is for all the world. It could be a place. El avión sale para Los Ángeles hoy. The plane leaves for Los Angeles today. That is where it is headed. Or it could be a point in time. Voy a hacer mi tarea para mañana. I am going to do my homework for tomorrow, looking ahead. So that's kind of what each of these uses has in common. It's headed ahead in a action, it's headed toward a person, it's headed toward a place, or it's looking ahead to a point in time. That's what we do with para, the preposition para. Let's look at actividad 1. Actividad 1 está en página 250 en el libro. Actividad 1. Andrés is telling about his trip to Buenos Aires. Tell whether the objective expressed by the preposition para in each sentence is an action, a person, a place, or a point in time. And if we look back at this list on the previous page, you can see all of those uses there. So let's look at the examples. Let's look at this activity and let's determine, is the sentence talking about para as in looking ahead to an action, to a person, to a place, or to a point in time? What is each of these sentences talking about? Let's look at número 1 together. El sábado pasado salí para Buenos Aires. Last Saturday, I left for Buenos Aires. Is para there looking at an action, a person, a place, or a point in time? That one, número 1, is looking at a place because I left for Buenos Aires. That is where I was headed. I'd like you to do números 3, 5, y 7 on a scratch sheet of paper or in a blank spot in your workbook. And then we'll come back together and check those answers. All right, I hope that went well for you. As we check our answers, make sure that you are marking any corrections in red. That way you know what you need to ask about so that you can understand why you missed what you missed. Número 3. Llevé tratados para darlos a muchas personas. I brought tracts in order to give them to many people. This is talking about an action. Para darlos, in order to give them. Número 5. Lo tomó y salió para su casa. He took it and left for his house. This one, para is followed by su casa. So this one is a place. Para su casa. Número 7. El avión salió de Buenos Aires para Miami a las 7 de la mañana. The plane left from Buenos Aires for Miami at 7 a.m. Obviously, this one is talking about a place. It is headed to a place. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's move on to Actividad 2. Also on página 250. Complete these sentences. You can put just about anything in these sentences here. Complete las frases. Número 1. Anoche compré helados para. Last night I bought ice cream for. Probably looking for a person here or a group of people. So we could say, anoche compré helados para mis hermanos. Last night I bought ice cream for my brothers and sisters. Would you please complete the sentences, número 3, 5 y 7, on a scratch sheet of paper or in your notes? Okay, número 3, traje un regalo para el maestro. I brought a gift for the teacher. Always a good idea. Número 5, me puse el sombrero y salí para tomar sol. I put on my hat and I left to take in some sun. Número 7. El profesor tiene noticias para los estudiantes. The teacher has news for the students. Again, in each of these, you can see some very good uses of the preposition para. As we review our preterite conjugations, remember that there are two other groups of verbs that are irregular in the preterite tense. I want you to look at the verb hacer, which is to make or to do, and then the verb estar, which is to be. You'll remember that estar is for location and condition, but each of these represent another group of irregular preterite conjugations. For hacer, we call the verbs that get conjugated like hacer our I group stem changers in the preterite. Hacer is conjugated hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, and hicieron. Do you notice the C to Z change there in the third person singular? We do that because if this verb, if that Z, if it stayed as a C, this would be ico. And we don't want ico. We want to keep that s sound of the infinitive here. So that C has to change to a Z in the third person singular. Hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, and hicieron. Estar, to be, as in location and condition, is an example of a V group stem changer in the preterite. So we have estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron. So that would be yo estuve would be I was. Tú estuviste, you were. Again, preterite is the past. So here we have hacer as an example of what we would call our I group stem changer. And then with estar, this is an example of what we would call our V group stem changers in the preterite. Remember that the preterite tense forms of hacer and estar, they do have those same endings. So when we get the I change in hacer and we get the V change in estar, we still have those same preterite endings. You see the example here in the yellow shaded box. Hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicieron. And those are the same stem change, or those are the same endings as our verb estar. Estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, and estuvieron. As always, remember that our irregular preterite conjugations don't have accent marks. So don't worry about accent marks in those stem changing preterites. So here are some more verbs that are like hacer. Remember, we said that hacer is representative of our I group stem changers in the preterite. So here are some other verbs like hacer that use those same endings that we just went over in the previous chart. Hacer, to make or to do. Hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicieron. Querer, to want or to love. Q-U-I-S for the stem. Quise, quisiste, quiso, quisimos, quisieron. And then venir, to come. Vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinieron. So make sure you are looking at those conjugations for these three verbs who all three of these verbs have that I group stem change. Then we have the U And so some of these have that V, like the verb estar, but all of these get that U stem change. Estar, to be. Estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron. Andar, to walk. Anduve, anduviste, anduvo, anduvimos, anduvieron. Poder, to be able to. Pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudieron. Poner, to put or to place. Pusí, pusiste, puso, pusimos, pusieron. Saber, to know, as in facts and information, gets sup. Supe, supiste, supo, supimos, supieron. And then tener, to have, gets tuv. Tener is an unusual verb in just about every conjugation that we've learned, but tener becomes tuv in the preterite. Tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvieron. Learn those conjugations because those are irregular, although there are other similar irregulars that you can group them together to help you remember how they get conjugated. There are 3 verbs in the preterite that when we conjugate them in the preterite tense, their meaning actually changes just a little bit. That's the verb saber, supe. Saber in the preterite means I found out. Yo supe que, I found out that. Quise, that comes from the verb querer, to want. Quise means I tried. You make it negative, no quise, and it means I refused. No quise estudiar. I refused to study. No quise estudiar. Mi hermano no quiso preparar la comida. My brother refused to prepare the food. No pude. No pude, the negative form of poder in the preterite means to be unable to do something. I tried it, but I couldn't do it. I tried, but I failed. No pude escribir un libro. I could not write a book. I tried, but I couldn't do it. Okay, so those 4 structures here, the meaning changes a little bit in the preterite. Let's look at actividad 3. Actividad 3 está en página 252. Los siguientes jóvenes no estuvieron en el juego de baloncesto anoche. The following young people were not at the basketball game last night. Diga las excusas que dieron. Tell the excuses that they gave. So why weren't they at the game? Let's look at the modelo. Juan, to go to the doctor. So we would say, Juan no estuvo allí anoche. John was not there last night. Tuvo que ir al médico. He had to go to the doctor. So you'll start with the name. You'll say, the person was not there last night. No estuvo allí anoche. And then give the reason why they were not there. Do the odds, número 1, 3, y 5, en los apuntes, on a blank sheet of paper or in an area in your workbook. Go ahead and write those sentences out just like you see in the model. Okay, I hope those went well for you. Let's take a look and see how you did. Número 1 would be, Manuel no estuvo allí anoche. Tuvo que ayudar a su padre. Manuel was not there last night. He had to help his dad. Número 3. Nosotros no estuvimos allí anoche. Tuvimos que visitar a un amigo en el hospital. We were not there last night. We had to visit a friend in the hospital. Número 5. Felipe no estuvo allí anoche. Tuvo que organizar un banquete. Felipe was not there last night. He had to organize a banquet. Hope that went well for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's look at actividad 4. Actividad 4 en página 252. A veces los jóvenes quieren hacer cosas imposibles. At times, young people want to do impossible things. Diga lo que los siguientes jóvenes quisieron hacer, pero no pudieron. Tell what the following young people wanted to do, but were not able. Escriba oraciones completas. Write complete sentences. So let's look at the modelo here, the example. José quiso escribir un canto, pero no pudo. José wanted to write a song, but he couldn't. Okay, so this is something they wanted to do, but they were unable to do. Do the odds, numbers 1, 3, 5, and 7, 1, 3, 5, y 7, en los apuntes, a scratch sheet of paper or a blank area in your workbook, and then we'll come back together and check those in just a moment. As always, mark your corrections in red. Número 1, Jorge quiso whatever, pero no pudo. You can put whatever you want in there. Jorge wanted to do something, but he couldn't. We could say, Jorge quiso preparar la comida, pero no pudo. Jorge wanted to prepare the meal, but he couldn't. Número 3, yo. Yo quise, whatever you want to put in there, yo quise correr una milla, pero no pude. I wanted to run a mile, but I couldn't. Número 5. Tú. Tú quisiste escribir una novela, pero no pudiste. You wanted, whatever, to write a novel, but you were unable to. Número 7. Ustedes. Ustedes quisieron conducir un tren, pero no pudieron. You all wanted to drive a train, but you couldn't. Whatever you want to put in the blank there, whatever infinitive, whatever action. The idea here is to make sure that you have those verbs conjugated correctly in the preterite tense. Any questions? Let me know. Actividad 5. Los pobres estudiantes, the poor students, no estudiaron para sus exámenes. They did not study for their tests. Tragic. ¿Qué les pasó? What happened to them? Well, I can tell you what happened to them, probably, if they didn't study for their tests. Conteste conforme al modelo. Answer just like the model. So, Roberto no quiso estudiar anoche. And remember that this expression no quiso means refused in the preterite tense. So this actually says Roberto refused to study last night. No pudo contestar las preguntas. He was not able to answer the questions. He refused to study last night, and today he was unable to answer the questions. So go ahead and do 1, 3, 5, y 7, changing the subject to the appropriate conjugated form of the preterite of the verbs that are here, and then we'll check those in just a moment. Do this on scratch paper or in a blank area in your notes. Número 1. Ana no quiso estudiar anoche. No pudo contestar las preguntas. Ana refused to study last night. She could not answer the questions. Número 3. Tomás y Felipe. This should be Tomás y Felipe, not just Tomás. Tomás y Felipe no quisieron estudiar anoche. No pudieron contestar las preguntas. Thomas and Philip refused to study last night. They could not answer the questions. Número 5. Pedro no quiso estudiar anoche. No pudo contestar las preguntas. Pedro refused to study last night. He could not answer the questions. Número 7. Ustedes. Ustedes no quisieron estudiar anoche. No pudieron contestar las preguntas. You all refused to study last night. You could not answer the questions. Okay, make sure you've marked any corrections there. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll work through those. And then actividad 7. This one you'll work on your own just a little bit. Escriba 5 oraciones en el tiempo pretérito. Write 5 sentences using the elements that are here in the preterite tense. Use un elemento de cada columna para cada oración. Use one element from each column for each sentence. So choose one from column A, one from column B, one from column C, and write original sentences. I would like to see 5 sentences here so that I can see that you understand how to construct the preterite tense in Spanish sentences. Go ahead and write those in a scratch sheet of paper or in a blank spot in your workbook, and we'll take a look at those together. All right, I look forward to looking at those sentences. I hope that went well for you. And that wraps up our lesson for today, guys. Español 1, capítulo 11, lección 30A. We had our homework check with our summer vacation sentences. We did a lot of review with our summer vacation vocabulary. Romans 5:8. We talked more about Peru. We talked about the pronunciation of the consonant sounds G, J, and J. We reviewed our cognates. That's FY to ficar, F-I-C-A-R verbs in Spanish. And then we introduced the preposition para. We talked about the uses of it. And then we did some grammar work with the irregular conjugations of the preterite verbs. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope the lesson went well for you. Make sure that you are keeping up on your language lab on Quizlet. I'll be looking at those grades as well. Que Dios les bendiga, clase. Adiós.